On this week's episode, I'm joined by a special guest, Madam Ambassador Elise Racicot. Elise is the Canadian ambassador to Portugal and has been living here for the last 7 months with her husband and her young child. We discuss, amongst other things, Elise's first experiences of Portugal, what she enjoys about living here as opposed to just visiting on holiday, why she put her hand up for this position, what Canadian people enjoy or could enjoy about Portugal, and of course we speak about some of our favorites: weather, food, wine, and Elise shares about the experience of having a young child in Portugal and also how she enjoys just being Elise, a mom, a woman, a wife, and a normal human being, and how Portugal gives her the space, the safety, and the time to do that. For those of you listening, head over to our YouTube channel to watch some of this episode. And for those of you watching, click down below and subscribe. And for the full podcast episode, head over to Stitcher, Google, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now over to my conversation with Elise. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, the Simple Life. And it's a real honor to be joined by our Lady Ambassador. Is that the right way to kind of introduce her?
You can say that. That's
Madam Ambassador.
That's fine.
Elise.
Or just Elise. Elise is good as well. Whoops, sorry.
That's okay. Elise Racicot, right? Did I say it?
Perfect.
Racicot. Elise, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I see you having a good cup of Portuguese coffee there.
I do. Well,
Yes.
it's my second this morning already.
This morning.
Yeah,
We had some technical difficulties, so it was a bit stressful. So you allowed your coffee for sure.
No, it's all fine. No worries.
Good.
Technical difficulties are part of our lives since COVID, isn't it? So
Exactly. Elise, maybe you can start off by telling us a little bit about you.
Yes, of course. Well, as you said, I'm Elise Racicot. I'm the Canadian ambassador in Portugal since a few months ago, but I've been a foreign service officer for the last 20 years or so. Went on posting to the Islamic Republic of Iran and a lot to Brazil, where I met my husband, which explains why I went many times. And so I come from a small town outside of Montreal in the French part of Canada called Quebec. Mm-hmm. And well, I'm just that's just me. Yeah.
What were some of the things you remember and that stood out for you in that first trip to Portugal?
You know, beautiful beaches, and I also remember there was a lot of tourism already at the time, because I went to a restaurant where it was hard to find a Portuguese menu, and I was like, well, I want to practice.
That was in the Algarve?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, at least for you, I mean, you've lived in two big cities and sort of big metropolitan areas, sometimes not the safest places to be. Have you enjoyed being able to just be not just Madam Ambassador, but also just be Elise with a toddler walking in the streets and being able to just almost, for lack of a better term, just be a normal human being, civilian? How has that been for you in Portugal?
No, that's actually great. And for someone like me who's coming from a small town in Canada, you know, the security factor and being able to have like the same kind of environment as I was brought up in, you know, is actually great, because I think that's nowadays like a really rare thing in many countries, in many cities. It's not necessarily possible to be you know, doing things without always having in the back of your mind, you know, all of the security issues that you need to be aware of. And so again, going back to the kiosk and the playground and the park, you know, it's kind of really nice to be able to let my son play, and being able to kind of sometimes take a few steps back and kind of not be worried about, you know, all kinds of things that happen to him, except maybe falling from whatever he's climbing on in the playground. Yes, exactly. But yeah, that's really nice to be able to live like that, and then not having, too much security around.
How does Elise how do you get your fix of balance in this hectic world that we live in?
Well, it's a mix of things, but being able to, I love nature in general, and so even if it's, you know, relative nature, let's put it this way, like in Lisbon, for example, there's a Monsanto forest. It's small and it's a protected area, but it's really close to my place. So if we go by car, like in 5 minutes, we're there, and it feels like you can walk for a really long time, and see all kinds of trees and fruits, and well, again, the chef husband, so we do like foraging sometimes when we get to these places,
Does he
finding
find
all
any
kinds of.
mushrooms? Does he find any mushrooms?
We didn't yet see many mushrooms, but
Okay.
a lot of fruits, a lot of fruits.
Okay.
Some of them I don't know the name in English, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
medronho and
Yes, yes.
alperci and all kinds of others, like little berries and things like that. And so
Yeah.
that's actually really nice. And so that's one. And then going again, there's a place that's not so close, but for us, again, Sao Paulo measure, 40 minutes is like usually just going to the mall. So, so we go often on the weekend to a place which is part of the big Sintra area, but
Mm,
it's called Praia das Maçãs.
yeah.
It's a simple beach, but it's really wide, or I should say, really deep rather than wide. And so it's really safe for kids because there's a lot more sand than water. So, and there's like a few good restaurants where you can get that grilled fish I like, and a glass of wine. And all the kids play together in the sand, and you can
Mm,
just kind of up on the beach really easily, up and out. And so that's a place we really like to go, because then it means that we can have like an actual long 2-3 hours lunch and get that extra glass of wine and coffee and dessert, while my son is also happy and having fun, and
yeah.
in a secure environment. So to me, that's really relaxing, because I feel that my husband is happy, my son is happy, and I'm getting like the saline fresh air, and I'm happy. So to me, that's a one of our regular escape that I really like.
I see a lot of similarities between Canadians and Portuguese people. I don't know if you've seen it as well. Kind of
Yeah.
discreet, chilled out, not too loud, really nice, calm people, friendly and polite. I see the same. I see a lot of that. But in your opinion, what do you think some of your countrymen would appreciate about Portugal?
Well, I think they appreciate that similarity that you just mentioned. It makes us feel at home in many ways. I think the family friendly element, I have to say, I cannot mention that enough. I'll tell you one story, if I may.
Sure.
Talking about food and fine dining and traveling through Portugal. When we went to the Douro, we went to like a Michelin restaurant for a tasting menu, because that's part of what we do when you're married to a chef. But my son, after like an hour and a half, was like starting to be a bit sleepy and a bit restless. And the waiters brought him like um, a bunch of little things, including a comforter and like a little pillow and a few toys, and they installed him on the carpet, like next to our table, so that he could kind of just get himself comfortable and ready to sleep, sort of. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. You never see that in any place I've seen before. And it's just one example, but everywhere we go, it feels like kids are really welcome and really kind of
Mm.
embraced, and people kind of know. The other day I was in a restaurant alone with my son, and he started being sleepy. So I guess that's a pattern. But there was this old woman who saw me kind of struggling with the baby and the bag and his bike and everything else. And so she got up and she said, no, let me help you. And she took the bike and took it all the way out. And I was like, you don't need to. It's that I know what it is to be a mom and a grandmother. And so that is like an aspect that I really, really think people would appreciate, that feeling of being welcome and being welcome, not just you, but as a family, and that your kids are being welcome. I love that. I also think that people would enjoy the sun for sure. Again, cannot overstate that. I mean, Canadians are well known to chase the sun wherever they can because we don't have enough of it through the year. And I think food and just a simple, I mean, I don't want to quote your show, but the simple life of Portugal.
That's why we called it. That's why we called it the simple life, because it is that. It's about those things.
Yeah, I think people feel comfortable, and so and maybe going just to my work for a second, I'll say, working in a country like Portugal is so interesting for me as a Canadian because we share so many of the same values of democracy and respecting a multilateral and rules-based order so that we can coexist peacefully. Respecting people that come from different backgrounds, that have different ways of expressing themselves, or whether you're man or woman, or whether you're black or white, or whether all those different elements that can make you unique or different. I think they're usually well embraced by the people here and as a tradition, actually.
Elise, what's one thing that you want people to remember and take away from our conversation?
Well, you should come to Portugal and you should enjoy it and just go with the flow. Just take advantage of this place being the way it is and hope that the world can become a little bit more like Portugal.
Elise, this has been a wonderful conversation. One more question, and a question that we ask all of our guests. Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Why? Because everything here it feels simple. And so, like I said, everything feels open and closed and solar. And, just the fact that, of course, there are days where it's raining. It happens, and it's a good thing.
We need some rain sometimes.
But most days you don't really have to ask yourselves, it's sunny and it's nice weather, and that's, just a given. So basically, it's simple because, it's just in a way it's a bit predictable, and it's going to be safe, it's likely going to be sunny and nice weather, it's not going to be far away wherever you go, people are going to be nice and you're going to get good food and good wine at not a ridiculous price, and it, prepared in a simple way but always in huge amounts. But all those things, I think, make it simple because you kind of feel at home.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, Dylan, for having me, and for your followers, wherever they are around the world. Thank you for hearing and being with us.
So thank you once again to our guest, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal the Simple Life also has a magazine, so download it. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And as we say in Portugal, sejas bem-vindo. Welcome to the Simple Life.